but hopefully this is working a little bit better than I think Nick just spoke for 10 minutes, which was good practice, I guess.
Definitely a good warm up.
Yeah, a good warm up, get the nerves flowing a little bit more. Let me just pause for 2 seconds. I'll let people come in. And I think we're really okay to go pretty soon. Okay, maybe I'll get started on my intro and we'll see if some folks join. But really, this should only be kind of a 15-minute demo anyway, so this is kind of perfect that we're at the sweet spot of our time today together. And I should introduce myself and Nicholas. So my name is Madeline, and I'm the content manager at Cintoo. And we're very happy to welcome you today to our first ever LinkedIn Live demo, which obviously causes a little bit of anticipation, and we're just kind of going with the flow today. But we're very happy that you're here, and we're going to be talking about some tools that will help you organize your Cintoo projects better, including the overview map, the rectangular selection tool, and the resource explorer. And I'm even happier that Nick is here to join me today because, I don't think I could do this with anyone else. It's just been so easy having you, Nicholas, with me. And to give a little bit about Nicholas, he's our CSM, Customer Success Manager at Cintoo, helping AEC professionals leverage the Cintoo platform. And Nicholas, you come with a background, in architecture, and as a trained architect, you helped small and large firms kind of make that adoption of BIM, reality capture, immersive technologies. And correct me if I'm wrong, it was in sort of a range of industries, right? Like sports and entertainment, aviation, hospitality, and transit, to name a few.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for being here today. And, I think to start with an introduction question, just to lay the foundation for the conversation we're going to be having, I think there's some value in talking about what the overall goal of these tools are supposed to be for folks, working in their projects. Sometimes we tend to get a little bit more narrow with our approaches when we're in our own projects and we have our very specific workflows. But really, once we learn these tools, it's only going to help make our workflows that much more efficient, that much easier. And I think, that's the value of today's conversation. I wanted to ask you, Nicholas, in your mind, and from your conversations with professionals as well as customers, what you see as the value in adopting tool sets that help folks kind of organize their Cintoo projects better.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Maddie. Yeah, so I think when we start talking about like cloud-based, web-based tools, so Cintoo, again, is a completely cloud-based collaboration platform. There's always ways to optimize and make sure you're getting the best performance while you're using the platform and the tools. So even though our core technology is converting point clouds to meshes, we're streaming those meshes in real time in a typical web browser over a typical internet connection. But for any folks familiar working with this type of reality capture data, this is extremely heavy kind of data and file sizes. And there's always ways to use the tools within the Cintoo projects to make sure you're optimizing and getting the best navigation experience and display experience and loading times. And that's basically what we'll be discussing and covering here today.
Okay, great. Perfect. So without further delay, I guess I'll just let you, Nicholas, kind of go into the live demo portion of this. And I'll just say, as a reminder to folks, if you do have questions, please feel free to hopefully be able to type those in the chat. I'll be monitoring it a bit, and we'll come back for the Q&A after the live demo portion. So Nick, I'll hand it off to you. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Maddie. So let me go ahead and I'll share my screen here, and then we'll jump right into one of our sample Cintoo demo projects. So what we're seeing on screen here, my just my Cintoo projects page open in my Google Chrome browser, and we're going to open this demo project that we have set up here for today. And the first thing I want to highlight is when you open Cintoo projects, it's going to jump straight into basically the first scan view in your project. So for today's demo, we have this Cintoo asset management sample project. We have a little over 300 scans that have been uploaded to this project. And then I'm going to be kind of going through how to optimize and how to structure and set up the project to make sure you're getting the best navigation experience and setting up your projects for success on your workflows. So what we have displayed here in the 3D view, we've jumped directly into the first scan view in this navigation map here in the bottom right. I can kind of zoom out here. This is a top-down view. We can see that there's basically just one big cluster of scan setups and scan locations that have been uploaded to what we call the root project folder for this demo project. So all 300 plus scans are loaded and visible here in the view. I can switch my display from 2D panoramic to 3D surface. This is where we're showing the high resolution mesh that's been created from our scans. And then one thing I want to highlight here is when we have all of our 300 plus scans in one root folder, as I'm trying to navigate and view the scene, you can see that there's a little bit of maybe slight delay in loading time and displaying the 3D data. As I move around, you see the progress wheel that's showing that there's data loading or streaming into the view. And this is one thing I want to highlight with just as we start with this project that's completely unorganized or unstructured. Even when I use our teleport tool, I'll switch the scan colors on, and we use our scan and teleport mode. This is where you'll mostly see that loading and that progress wheel will show when there's data still loading or still streaming into our view as we look around and as we move around with our navigation and our teleport feature. So I'll make a point of this, and I'll come back to this as we continue to organize our project and show how this kind of optimizes the loading time and the performance of the platform. So to do this, we're going to switch over to our overview map, and that's going to open basically a top-down orthographic view of our project. Again, we still have over 300 scan setups and locations displaying here in the overview map. Right now I'm in the top-down view, but I can switch with these view tiles to our front view. And this will give us a better visibility of how the actual scan locations and the actual individual scans are set up based on varying heights or elevations. And I can use our display mode. I can switch from color RGB to X-ray. And this will give us a really clear kind of visual of how our scans are organized by elevation. And we can use this as a starting point to organize our project by level. So this will apply to any kind of facilities or infrastructure or buildings that may have scans or captures at various heights, elevations, or levels. You can use this strategy to organize and start to structure your project by level. So what we're going to do here is use our rectangular selection tool, and we're going to just drag and select the first kind of level of our scan setup icons. And once we have those scans selected, we'll open what we call our Resource Explorer tool. And that's going to open this panel here on the right side. You'll see it'll show the individual scans that are selected. And we can actually just use this, and we can click Create Work Zone and move selected nodes. So let me go ahead and I'm going to pop this Project Explorer just to show us a little bit better. Let me go ahead and reselect my scans here, and I'll show how you can create a work zone with the individual scans selected. So I'm going to select the kind of the first level of our scan icons here in the front view of our overview map. And then with those scans selected, I'm going to click that Create Work Zone. I'm going to call this ground level, and I'm going to click Create. And that's going to move all of our selected scans that we have in our overview map view, and it's going to organize them into a folder called ground level. And with this folder now created, I can actually toggle these scan icons off in our view, and then move forward with moving and organizing the rest of our scans within our project. So here we see we have the first level created. So I'm just going to go ahead and hide that. And then I'm going to go ahead and use our rectangular selection tool and select the second level of our scans. And I'm going to repeat this process for the rest of our scan locations here. I'm going to call this level 2, click Create, and I'm going to hide those scans. And then I'm going to do this 2 more times for the rest of our scans here in the view. I'll zoom in a little bit here, use that rectangular selection tool, And again, as I'm selecting these tools, you can actually see how many scans are selected within our Resource Explorer. I'm going to call this folder level 3, and then I'm going to create uh, one more work zone. I'm going to hide these. Zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to call this last one. I'm just going to call it level 4 here. So by doing this, we can start to organize our project by various levels. And then once we have these levels created, we can actually start to toggle on or off those various scans in the view. We can select a specific folder, and we can load that specific folder um, by itself. So by default, when we select that ground level folder, for example, that work zone, all of the scans in the level 2, 3, and 4 folders will be toggled off by default. So that'll refresh our overview map. I'm going to switch back here to a front view just to show, right? So by default, those other levels are toggled off. We only have our ground level scans visible here. And then one other point I want to make is it's always a best practice. What we recommend is to keep the number of scans, the number of individual scan setups to about 100 or less for each work zone folder. So you want to try to keep that number to make sure you're optimizing the work zone selections as best as possible. So for example, this ground level, we have 181 scans. So we want to break this level down a little bit further into subfolders or sub work zones. And to do this, we can just do that same exact workflow. Again, I'm going to switch to X-ray mode here. We can see these are the scans in our ground level or level 1 work zone. And we want to break this up into smaller areas or smaller groups. So to do this, I'm actually going to use another tool called the rotation tool. And I'm actually just going to rotate our view just to get a better visual of our scan cluster here. So with that rotation tool active, I can just use this slider. I'm just going to rotate. So what we're doing here is we're just rotating the view of our overview map. We're not applying any kind of changes or transforms to the actual data. We're just rotating and adjusting our view of that data within our overview map. So by doing that to rotation, I can go back and use our rectangular selection tool and start to organize the ground level scans into various areas. So I'm going to zoom in here a bit. I'm going to use that rectangular selection tool, and I'll select and start organizing these ground level scans into to areas. So with these selected, I'll use that same workflow. I'm going to call this ground area A, and you see that's gonna create a work zone within our ground level folder that I can toggle off here in the Project Explorer. And I'll do that same step 2 more times for the rest of our scans here. I'm going to select about half in this area, and let me go ahead and move in a little bit further here just to get a better visual. I'll select about half of this area here, and you'll see you'll get that number readout. You'll know how many scans you selected, and I'll create ground area B. So again, we're just separating separating this ground level area down into separate work zones. And then this last one here, I'll select the rest of our scans, and I'll move this into a subfolder called ground area C. So now we have those subfolders created within our ground level folder, and then we have these other levels created. Now we're starting to basically structure our project and make sure that we're kind of setting up the project for the best visualization and performance. So what this allows us to do is, again, toggle information on or off within our overview map and within our 3D view. It allows us to break down larger areas into smaller groups. And basically what this does is I can select, here I can select again, the level 2, and that'll just load those specific scans that are in that work zone. So what I'll show here is I'll select that ground level, that overall area, that overall ground level. And then now I'm going to switch over to my 3D view. So the same kind of mechanic works whether you're in the overview map or the 3D view. When you're viewing the data, when I had that ground level work zone selected and I switched over to the 3D view, now I'm just viewing the ground level scans that are within our project. And the rest of our data is basically toggled off at the moment. So this is one strategy you can use to be able to control how much data you're viewing and you're trying to load in the scene at one time. And we can even do this, go down one level further. I can select, our ground level area A, and that's going to refresh our view and only show, those 24 scans that are organized and saved under that ground level A folder. And then now, if you compare our navigation experience to what we had at the beginning of the session with all 300 plus scans visible in our view, the navigation experience and the loading of the scene should be much quicker and much more optimized as you have these structured folders and the work zones and the scans organized into the specific areas. You get much quicker and faster loading times. So this is just one strategy you can use to make sure you're giving structure to your Cintoo projects, and you're being able to optimize and control what's being displayed, and what's being loaded in the view at one time. And then so yeah, so that's really the gist of how to organize your projects. Um, One other thing I want to do for a tip is setting your starting view for your project. Uh, so one tip you can use to set a starting view, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, when you open a Cintoo project, it's going to load the first scan view in your project. So if I wanted to set this location as my starting view, actually I'm going to select our start location here. I'm just going to go ahead and rename this individual scan. I'm going to use that edit button, and I'm just going to move this just by adding an underscore. I'm going to move this scan to the top of our list within our ground area A folder. And now that scan is the first scan listed in our first work zone, this view will be the starting view whenever you open the project from My Projects. So I'll show a quick example here, and I'll kind of end on that note and open it up to any questions. We'll have some Q&A if there's any questions, and I'll open it back up to Maddie as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Nick. I think one question that I have right now is you showed a little bit about the teleportation feature in Cintoo, and I know that's a big new thing that we've kind of made available on the platform. And I was wondering if you could kind of describe what that allows experts and not non-experts now to do as they navigate their scan data.
Yeah, definitely. So that scan and teleport tool is really a game changer because it just adds another mode of navigation that's very similar to your typical kind of what we refer to as kind of the Google Street View. You're clicking on the scan icons. You're jumping from one scan icon to the next just by clicking. But this allows you to actually break out of those. You're not tied specifically into those scan locations. So what I'm describing here is, clicking, moving from scan to scan is kind of the most user-friendly mode of navigation. It's the most familiar, and then you also have that ability to use that teleport cursor, and you're not tied to those specific scan locations. You can move freely on basically any flat surface. You can move that teleport cursor to. So this is really a game changer for making the navigation experience much more familiar, much more kind of low learning curve, user friendly for those who may not be as familiar with navigating or viewing this type of reality capture or 3D scan data.
Right. So easy to use and functional for any person, no matter what technical ability they might have. I think that's super important to
Exactly.
kind of point out. And then also, Nick, you showed us sort of the top down view of the scan data, or the scanner setup, which looks a little bit clustered versus that, very nice front visual piece where you were able to layer it by levels. But I'm just curious if there's a use case for having that top-down view, or is it really just dependent on what the project needs?
Yep, yeah, definitely use case for that top-down view. So that top-down is probably more useful for projects over long distances. So we have some clients and customers that scan and capture like railways or even oil and gas pipelines over large linear distance. So you can definitely use that top-down view and start to section off parts of that long distance or long linear project. And that's where it's a little bit more applicable. The top-down and then the front or side views a little bit more applicable to some of the more vertical infrastructure like buildings or oil and gas platforms, those kind of things.
Yeah, no, that yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It depends on kind of what that environment is, I guess,
Yeah,
and whether
project
those
related.
structures. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, that makes sense. And then kind of the last question here is, when you're speaking to customers, what kind of best practice tips do you give them about organizing their projects? Do you find that they have specific challenges that you give them some tips and tricks on that helps resolve those?
Yeah, yeah. So I think one question that comes up a lot is when you have maybe like a campus of separate facilities or separate buildings. You have a site that has various areas that have been captured. Whether to put all of that into one overall project, or whether those should be split up into separate Cintoo projects, where you have the scans for one area on the campus or site in one project, and then you have the scans for the south or the east part of a campus or site in a separate project. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really kind of up to the project requirements. There's benefits and drawbacks to each, whether you have it in one overall project with various work zones for each building or facility. But it really comes down to the product requirements, how you want to allow access to the different areas or parts of a site. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one question that comes up a lot is whether to divide one overall site into separate projects or to have everything under one roof of one project.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for your time and your patience.
Definitely.
I really appreciate it. And I'll let everyone have the rest of their day back here, and we'll just close out the session. Thank you so much again.
Great. Thank you, Maddie. Thanks, everybody.